Hey y'all, hello, hello, hello. Hey family, what's up? This is your girl, Reverend Dr. Najuma Smith, and it is a Winners Wednesday. It's Winners Wednesday, and I'm so excited to be on with you on this Winners Wednesday. And you all know the drill. Come on, say with me, wake up and win, wake up and win, wake up and win. Listen, I know we do that usually very early in the morning, but today has been one of those days, and I wasn't going to let the day pass without doing a Winners Wednesday word with you all. And so, even though it's afternoon time, you can still wake up and win in the afternoon time. It's not about the time of day. It's about waking up emotionally, spiritually, physically, psychologically. We're waking up to ourselves, waking up to our calling, waking up to the word of God, waking up to our energy, waking up to our stamina, waking up to life and getting out there and winning. So let me reintroduce myself, and it is a Winners Wednesday. And so thank you for being tuned into our Wake Up and Win podcast, and it is our Winners Wednesday word. But before I get into that, let me reintroduce myself. I am your girl, Reverend Dr. Najuma Smith. I am a pastor here in Los Angeles. I do a bunch of community and civic engagement work. I work at a university here where we lead faith leaders on how to do community and civic engagement work. And I do a bunch of that stuff in the city of Los Angeles. And I'm also the founder of Wake Up and Win, and this show here with you all, where we come live with a word, a winner's word. And offer that to you on our Winners Wednesday, and the whole point of our Winners Wednesday and our Wake Up and Win is to acknowledge that you can go through a major loss, recover, restore, rebuild, and get back out there and win again. That you can go through a major loss, recover, restore, rebuild, and get back out there and win again. So thank you for joining me on Wake Up and Win. It's a Winners Wednesday word, and I'm so glad to share that with you. And part of my journey and my story is that in 2018, October, my oldest son's life was taken. And I use this platform to talk about the grief journey and how we can go through major loss, recover, restore, rebuild, and get back out there and win again. And so my hope and my goal is that anything that's shared here, my experience, tips, tools, information, will help you no matter what you've gone through in life, no matter what the loss has been, no matter what the challenge has been, that you too will know that you can go through that major loss, recover, restore, rebuild, and get back out there and win again. And it is a Winners Wednesday. So let's get into our Winners Wednesday word. And that is this: the gift of grief, part 3. Now, if you go back the last 2 shows, you'll see the gift of grief, part 1 and part 2. And so part 3 of our the gift in grief, and that is self-care. Self-care. So again, I share with you that part of my story and my journey has been going through the grief process, after having lost my eldest son in 2018. And the things that grief has taught me. So if you go back to the last 2 podcasts series, you will see part 1 was about connection, part 2 is about community, and today is about self-care. So go back and watch those. Also, go back and listen and watch my series on releasing all attachments. That was a journey that I've started in 2013. And yeah, it was a journey I started in 2013. And I talk about that journey in a 16-part series. So go back and watch that. It's a 16-parter, so you can actually listen and watch it. If you have a long drive home, it's the story and the process is broken down to like these 15, 20-minute segments. So I hope you enjoyed that. And make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. So let's get into our Winners Wednesday word. And that again is the gift of grief, part 3, which is self-care. Now, one of the things that going through the grief journey has taught me is the importance of self-care, the importance of caring for one's self. And we're talking, this is bigger than just taking yourself out to the movies or buying yourself some perfume, for me, because I'm a woman, or cologne for those that are men, or even treating oneself to a good dinner. Even though I do all of those things, But what I'm really learning in this, and grief has given me this gift in prioritizing my self-care. Now, self-care can look like a lot of things. And when I talk about self-care, I'm talking about caring for self, nurturing self, um, growing self, stretching self, really tending to knowing self, understanding self, and giving myself what I need to be my best self, even in the midst of the grief journey. Okay, so when we talk about self care, it's not just the external, it's the internal, it's intentional, it is boundary setting, it is the things you give yourself, it is also the things that you take away from yourself, it is getting to know yourself all over again and really figuring out what is good for you and doing that over and over and over again every day. Because and but more importantly, prioritizing self-care. I know for a fact, had I not learned to prioritize my own self care, I never would have made it. I wouldn't be here 6 years later, still wrapped in my right mind, still able to smile and laugh, still able to enjoy life if I had not prioritized my self care. Now, for me, the key tenets of my personal self care have looked like and continue, and this continues to evolve, but have looked like getting therapy, being in groups, grief conversations with others who are grieving, being in community, which is one of the things I talked about in the last segment, being in community with others who have gone through a similar journey. It looks like having very sincere boundaries with what I will take on and what I won't take on. Self care has looked like paying attention to my body when I'm tired, doing the best I can to rest or go to sleep or just stop, chill out. It has looked like acknowledging when my energy is running low, my patience is running low, my capacity for people is running low. Yesterday, I was at an event 2 days ago, and the event released, and I quickly left out the building because there was a lot of people. And one of the things that I'm learning about myself is that sometimes in large crowds, there's a lot of people moving and hugging and touching. I have to exit that space because it just feels like too much, right? And that comes from the trauma I've experienced. Plus, I also had a bad experience with crowds. So sometimes, not always, but sometimes in crowds, I can feel it when I need to get away from crowds. And so at that event, I exited fairly quickly. But I went to my car, and at my car, I was like doing some things, piddling around. And one of the ladies who saw me, she's like, "Oh, you had the right idea. You came to your car to do X, Y, and Z." I was like, yeah, I just needed to get out of the, I would explain to her, like, part of me taking care of myself is like exiting crowds sometimes. So again, knowing that about myself and giving myself space to not stay in the crowd, but to exit the crowd, right? Self-care for me has looked like, spending being okay with spending time in the house by myself alone with no radio, no TV, just doing the things I need to do, taking my time, moving about slowly, or whatever the case may be. But also, self-care has looked like for me being outside, very gregarious, celebrating holidays, celebrating birthdays, being around people, having fun, singing out loud, dancing, making TikToks. That's also been part of my self care journey. But here's the thing, all of those things, and also part of my self care is also being very intentional about getting up very early in the morning to pray, to meditate, to write out my dreams, write out my ideas, to explore my thoughts, right? And to do that writing and being very intentional with those things, those steps. But here is the number one piece to the gift that grief has given me is self-care, is that prioritizing it. Many people, most people, I would say a lot of people do self-care when they've exhausted everything else. And you have to do self-care because your body has given out, because your health has changed, because you have snapped on people or snapped at work. And so you got to take time off work because they sent you home for the day. Most people do self care as a reaction to something that has happened, as opposed to a priority because because it's that important. And so when I talk about the gift of grief, and that gift is prioritizing my self-care. That is the gift that grief has given me, has helped me to develop and establish, and help me to recognize that I must prioritize. Prioritizing my self care, meaning if I'm spending the day alone, making sure I don't fill that time up because somebody else wants my time, like honoring that time alone because I need it. I am a introvert and I recharge most when I'm alone. And one of the things I had to grow out of was feeling guilty of of creating that alone space, even from my children, and allowing them to go to a grandparent's house or a cousin's house or a friend's house, or allowing them to stay in the after school program until the last 10 minutes, and then I'll go get them because I'm at home recharging so I can take on the night shift, which is dinner, bath, homework, bed, right? But prioritizing self-care, that is what the grief journey has gift that the grief journey, or one of the gifts that this grief journey has given to me, which is to prioritize my self-care, because I know this to be true for sure. Had I not prioritized my self-care, I would be out here trying to do my thing, live my life, go through whatever I'm going through, and not taking care of myself. Trying to rebound from a great loss, trying to recover, restore, rebuild, but not taking care of myself. And so when we talk about the gift of grief, prioritizing self-care, I want to urge you, whatever your great loss has been, that in order to recover, restore, rebuild, one of the things that the gift of grief has given me is that this process of restoring, recovering, rebuilding requires prioritizing one's self-care. And again, it's bigger than just taking oneself out to dinner or buying oneself a gift. It can include those things, but it's really about understanding who you are, gaining a great awareness about who you are, what you need, and how you need it to allow you to emerge as your winning self in your winning season, nothing missing, nothing lacking. And even though I am forever a grieving mother, I will always miss my son. That doesn't ever go away. But I now have in my toolkit to flourishing again, my toolkit to flourishing for forever, is I must prioritize my self-care. And that came out of the grief journey. That understanding, that awareness, that process, creating that kind of life for myself. I now have an afternoon, early evening ritual that I really enjoy, which is after I've worked, come home, do my whole shower thing. So when I go and get my kids for the evening, we can come home. That part of my day is done. I can now focus on them. I'm a little more relaxed. I've rested a minute, and now I can focus on homework. I can focus on, after school activities. I can focus on dinner. I can focus on whatever needs to happen, but giving myself that little window of time from the time I'm done with work to the time it's time to go get them, and using that time to come home, shower, relax, change my clothes, all the things, right? Take a cat nap if I need to, eat a little something, so that way when I take on the night shift, I'm ready. That's my new thing I've added to my self-care process. And so I want to invite you in this on this today, in this, after listening to this this segment, to invite you to write out, not just think about. I want you to begin to write out, what does self-care look like for you? What do you need? What do you want? What will help you recover, restore, rebuild, and get back out there and win again? And write it out, and then begin to prioritize it in your day and in your life. Write it out. Write it all out. Even if you can't do it right now, write it out. And then begin to implement a self-care routine, process, regimen, habit, journey, all the things, all of that, and then some. And prioritize it. Prioritize it like you prioritize a hair appointment, a nail appointment. Prioritize it like you prioritize eating. Prioritize your self care. That is the gift, or one of the gifts, that I have gained in this grief journey. Now, I'm not saying I want to grieve. I'm not saying that grieving is joyous. I am saying that in this journey, one of the things that has evolved is that I must prioritize. I must prioritize. I must prioritize my self care. I want to implore you to prioritize your self care. And your assignment is write out what that looks like for you. Now, I want to caution where there are habits like drinking, narcotics, meds, over medicating. That's not self care. Why? And I say that because those things take away, being indulging too much in alcohol when we're to the point where that we're drunk, intoxicated, not making good decisions, or indulging in narcotics that take away from us, that diminish us, that may even cause us to behave in ways that are not healthy for us, not just physically but also mentally and emotionally. And so I want to caution that as you investigate what does self-care look like for you, pay attention where self-care creeps into addictive behavior. Those are two different places. Self-care, addictive behavior is not self-care, because what we know about addictive behavior and habits, those things tend to diminish and take away from us. So I just want to throw that out there for consideration, that when you're making your list of what does self-care look like, right? That we don't write down getting drunk or drinking too much, that, because those things are not self-care. Self-care would look like getting assistance for addictive behavior and addictive responses. Okay, so I'm not accusing anyone. I just want to share that. So write out the list. What does self-care look like for you? And then begin to prioritize it. Some things you will do daily, some things you will do weekly, some things you will do quarterly, monthly, some things you will do annually. But whatever those things are, prioritize your self care. It will not only help you to heal as you recover, restore, rebuild, so you can get back out there and win again. Not only will it help you heal, but it'll help you emerge and come up and shine again and grow and evolve and become all and more of what God has intended for you. So, the gift of self care, the gift of grieving has taught me the gift of connection, has given me the gift of connection, the gift of community, and the gift of prioritizing self care. Please, 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 in 2025, prioritize your self care. Let your grief journey, or whatever the loss has been, whatever the challenge has been, teach you, show you, speak to you about what you need and how you need it, so you can prioritize those things and get busy, so you can, having gone through a major loss, recover, restore, rebuild, and get back out there and win again. Thank you for joining us on Wake Up and Win Live, our Winners Wednesday word. I am your girl, Reverend Dr. Najuma. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. Hit the like button. Let the algorithm know that you like our content. And we'll be back next Wednesday for another Winners Wednesday word just for you. I'm out, y'all. Peace.